Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and after many years as a marketing leader in the B2B SaaS industry, I set up Hey Gabby to support startups and scale-ups with their go-to-market and growth needs. I work with so many great founders, and that's led me to want to hear their stories and share them with others. And that's why I set up this podcast. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. This week, I have the pleasure of speaking with a female founder, Chloe Scott, and she has founded a company called Trust Verified. Welcome to the show, Chloe. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So, Chloe, tell me a little bit about what Trust Verified is all about.
So it's essentially an online professional CV. It's a membership platform. We're aiming it at the property industry to start with, just because that's kind of where I'm based and what I know about. But the kind of long-term goal is to take it out into the wider kind of SME, small businesses, across various different industries. It's a place where we can verify your ID, your compliance documents, and the biggest thing of all is evidenced references. So professional references, so it kind of be business to business, clients that you've worked with, investors that you've worked with, JV deals that you've done, and they can give you a professional reference that you can then use to go on to get your next deal, your next investment. It kind of complements social media, but it takes away that. At the moment, social media kind of rules the roost, doesn't it? And everyone can be whoever they want online, and there's a lot of misinformation. And it's trying to figure out if people are actually competent at what they say they can do. So this is kind of giving people that platform to prove their competence, and just build more trust within the industry.
So how does that work then? So you're currently selling into realtors and real estate, aren't you? And so I'm the local estate agents. What would I be using your technology for, and how would that work for us as a business?
So we're not actually targeting estate agents to start off with. So there's kind of not underground, but another level of the property industry that a lot of people don't know about. And that's people who would be kind of deal sources. So that's people who would they'd have their own limited company. They might work for themselves or with one other person. And their job is to go and look through the housing market essentially and find good property deals and negotiate deals on behalf of investors. Investors who might be time poor, but they've got a bit of money. So they kind of do on the ground work, and build up portfolios for other people. Or you've got small developers as well who do the same thing, but they will borrow money from investors to fund their own projects, like a flip project or a buy to let, and they'll refinance it and all that kind of stuff. So you've got it's really hard to find an exact number because Companies House aren't very giving with all of the information, and LinkedIn as well. I'm trying to get more information from them, but there's between 50 and 100,000 roughly independent deal sources in the UK. So and a lot of these people are obviously using other people's money or investing on behalf of other people. There's no regulation for deal sourcing. There's compliance that you have to have to operate legally, but there's no one really checking it. So a lot of people are going on these short courses, a couple of days or even a couple of hours sometimes, and being encouraged to then go online and say you're a property investor, you're a deal sourcer, you can help people invest in property safely. And obviously, a lot of the time, this is going sideways. People are losing huge sums of money, six figures, multiple six figures, which is retirement funds, inheritance, life savings. So I'm trying to help. There's loads of really good deal sources and small developers who are doing amazing things, but it's trying to help them stand out from the ones who are just trying to make money quickly. We're going to move on to hopefully estate agents and the kind of the more qualified professionals later. But at the moment, I'm targeting the kind of the more unregulated, the ones who don't need professional qualified to do what they do. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's such a big market. And as you said, if you're going to target SMEs and different types of businesses over time, the sky's the limit. Because I think, we often see background checks when you're in the corporate world, particularly in the financial industries and security and compliance. But in some of these unregulated industries, you have to go on trust and, what you find online. I think everyone's good at stalking people online these days. But as you said earlier, you can present yourself in a particular way on social media, but that isn't necessarily, always true, sadly.
Absolutely. It's the same with, coaching is now a big thing online. And yeah, it's just trying to protect people because I've been caught out a few times, with trying to build this company, and I've gone, oh, I really need help with this and like structuring a pitch deck. And right at the start, I really didn't know anything. So I was just trying to find people to help me. And very quickly learned that a lot of those people didn't know much more than me. I suppose you only need to know 1% more than me to convince me that you know a lot more than me. So a lot of the things I was getting sent were sort of just things that were scripted from ChatGPT that weren't even altered. Still had the prompts in there, and like, hang on, I'm meant to be paying you for this. So it's just to try and I want to add a trust layer to the online business world, somewhere where people can go, even if, we're looking at onboarding trades onto the platform as well. And so then you've got your public searching for businesses as well, rather than just business to business. Because even I find that really difficult, finding a trade to come and do a job. They all have amazing advertising and websites, and sometimes even referrals aren't that great. But if there's somewhere you can go to check their credentials, check that they're insured, and see a bunch of reviews that are actually from clients because they've evidenced it with paid invoices, that would give people much more sort of confidence in who they choose to work with. And that's just what I'm aiming for, really.
Great. And I really buy into that. There is so much out there in terms of scammers, or not necessarily people that are, out there to scam, but that aren't at the level that they're projecting and aren't able to deliver the quality service or product that they claim to. So I think I speak for everybody that feels they need that verification. And, I personally don't like to buy anything online unless I've really done my due diligence and really checked out that organization. Which is why companies like Amazon, have done so well, because they've built that trust. And so that's why people keep going back to that trusted brand.
Yeah, exactly. And so I want to help the newer people. So that's why I came about the idea, actually, was because I only came into this side of property, a couple of years ago. Before that, I did interior architecture and design for private residential clients, and then wanted to learn more about kind of the investment side of property. And I very, very quickly learned that it was all about how you projected yourself on social media. Like, that's how you got jobs, that's how you got investment. And everyone would say the same thing. Just show everybody what you're doing, post every single day. And I was like, hang on, so that's it? You just have to. But I didn't want to do that every day, because I was like, I don't have anything to say every day. So then you end up with these kind of online social media platforms that are just full of the same repetitive thing. So I kind of then just got my head down for a year or so and just focused on learning more about the finance side of it, analyzing deals properly. And I learned from 2 or 3 experienced people who offered me their time. But then when I was ready and felt ready to go back and actually hopefully work with some investors and do JVs, I was like, nobody knows who I am because I haven't been on social media properly. So there was no way for me to evidence that I was now much more competent to do what I said I could do. And then it got me thinking, well, if you were going to go for a professional job at a company that was paying, 5-6 figures, they'd want a CV, they'd want professional references, they'd check your ID, they'd check any compliance or education. But we don't do that. Why? When we're still playing with kind of 6, even 7-figure sums of money. So I was like, I need something. There should be something that's like a CV system that's not just a written out CV. So then Trust Verified was born. So it originally came from wanting to help people kind of get that credible jump start, the people who would kind of really try to do the learning and put the time in without having to do social media as much, because some people just don't want to do it.
That's true. I agree with you. If you don't have anything to say, why try and say something that isn't necessarily going to resonate because you're trying to cheat the algorithms and gain new followers?
Yeah. And then you've got people commenting on things that are just AI comments or just commenting for the sake of commenting so that it helps them get further reach. And it does social media does play a role, absolutely, but it should be more of a way to display your kind of values and your ethics and your personality and how you work, not necessarily if you're legally compliant or competent to do the job. That shouldn't be how we're assessing people. Yeah, so that's kind of where it came from.
Love it. So you had this great idea. You're not come from a tech background. So what was the journey and the process that you went through to kind of get your ideas into building a platform? What was your approach to that?
So the first thing I did was I went, right, I need to find out if this is a good idea. So I had to just validate the idea. So I just messaged hundreds of people on LinkedIn, Facebook. A lot of them I knew, a lot of them I didn't know, just saying, I've got this idea, and I kind of would give them a brief overview of the idea. Can you let me know your thoughts? Is this something you'd spend money on? And I just gathered as much feedback as possible. Most people were really forthcoming and would say that's a great idea, or they'd ask me really good questions to make me kind of think more. Because my biggest thing was, then why wouldn't this work? It's all right, people, because you don't want that confirmation bias, do you? So you can't just go and ask your family and friends because they're all going to go, great idea. You need to go and ask the right questions to strangers. Why is this not going to work? What have I missed? What else do you think could make this better? And by asking those questions, it really helped me iterate my idea and shape it into what it is now. So once I'd essentially validated the idea, I then got to work kind of going, right, okay, I think I need a web developer because I don't know tech and I have no interest in learning tech either. So I went through various different people, had phone calls, kind of video calls with them, asked them, price points, and I got a wide range of price points. Some were sort of, we can do it for 5K. One was even, it could go all the way up to 300K to build the platform.
Wow.
So I'm not rebuilding Facebook. Yes, I just kind of kept those conversations going with various different people. And I'm always about the person rather than what they show me on paper. I think you've really got to vibe with somebody. And if there's like loads of awkward pauses and it gets a bit uncomfortable, then I'm like, no, maybe this isn't going to work, because I have to really be able to work with you for the foreseeable future. And I found various people who I really liked, who I work with. One of them is a really good designer. He's helped kind of design my logo and the kind of initial design bits that I needed. Then I found someone to kind of build the platform out. I also needed, so in terms of investment, I had to try and cost up how much is this going to be? Because I think some people go, oh, let's do everything at once and launch like a full company, a fully functioning platform with like all singing, all dancing. But it might not work. So it's a lot of wasted money. So I was like, right, let's build a really kind of lean MVP with the real basics on. The where we can just onboard property professionals, like independent property professionals. We do ID compliance and references, and that's kind of it. Then then we get 100 founding members on. That was my target. Once we do that, then we raise a bit more to kind of build the platform out, because we've gone, right, okay, we've got proof of concept now because people are willing to pay for it. But the idea of the 100 founding members was, I was like, some people build something based on their idea of what they think other people need. Whereas I thought I need to build it with the people that are going to be using it. So let's create 100 founding members where we can have, say, monthly webinar meetings, maybe even a WhatsApp chat. So everyone loves those. Something where they can really be involved in the building and the development of the platform going forward. If things don't work, why don't they work? What would be better? What should we add on? What do you like, not like? All that kind of stuff. So that's my plan with them. Then kind of raise more, build it out, and then kind of go from there.
So you're basically taking a community-led approach to building the product, which I think is awesome. And I love the fact that you spent all that time gathering information and validating your idea, because often founders don't do that, or they'll do it in tandem with building the product. So I think it's really great that you were able to do that before even having a line of code written.
Yeah, because it's for them to use. So there's just, I like being efficient, and I just think I hate wasting my time on things. So I was like, right, let's just kind of do this in sort of the right order. And a lot of it's just learning as you go. I am a bit of a perfectionist, and that has held me back in the past when I've had websites and stuff and I've gone, it's not ready, I'm not launching it, because it wasn't perfect. I've really had to kind of push myself with this and go, okay, let's just get an MVP launched. As long as it looks okay, it does what we need it to do, the bare basics. But then it came down to funding. So I hate sliding into people's DMs and asking for money, because I just think, why? I think it's really rude, but it has to be done. So but I ended up actually running my idea. When I was validating the idea, I put it past someone who was one of the 3 people who was kind of teaching me for the past 18 months. And he said, actually, I'd really like to invest in this idea. He said, I've got to know you over the past 18 months. I believe that this is a really good idea. It's really scalable. And his area of expertise is finance and lending. So he sort of brought that side to it, because we plan to have lending partners. So where you can upload, property professionals can upload more documents, more information, sort of proof of income, AML and all that kind of stuff, so that you can then borrow from the lending partners quicker, because all your information is already there. So he offers that kind of strategic approach to it and expertise as well, which is great. He's also the CEO of a company, so he's really good at hiring and understanding how businesses work, whereas that's still very new to me. So that was great. But then so he was personally investing his own money, but it's got held up in the corporate banking system I don't know how much I can say about it, but essentially it's not here yet. So I was like, right, I've got to kind of sit on this for a bit. I've got investment, but I haven't got the investment. What do I do now? So I was like, I'm just going to launch the idea. Sort of why wait and sit around waiting for the money when I can be gaining some sort of momentum? So that as soon as I launch, people will just sign up straight away because they already know about it. So then that was my new plan, and that's what I've been doing for the past 3 months. Just posting about it, telling everyone about it. I went to events, so had like a stall, telling everyone about it. And it was really last minute. It was like, okay, I'm doing this, let's go. There's an event like in 3 days. So I ordered some like roller banners and leaflets and all that kind of stuff. And I was like the barest table at the event because I was like, I've never done one of these before. And you get there and everyone's got loads of different freebies and sweets and all sorts. And I was like, I've just got leaflets and me, but that's fine. But I had a great time. And that was the first event was UK Homes Network, which is a social media platform just for property people, which is a really good platform. And they're a really good community. So they were really welcoming. And so that was great. And then it just kind of went from there, really. And then I've had more contact from trades saying, could we join this? Because we don't want to join Tracker Trade. And there's that kind of opens up a whole other market, which is great. But I was like, I need to be very careful here because there's lots of different trades, there's lots of different certifications, and I need to make sure that we can verify all of those individually. So that needs building out later. So that's why we're just sticking with the property professionals at the moment, and then we'll just expand. Yes, I think you've just got to go for it and learn as you go. But just make the move, tell people about it. But also be honest when you don't know. So some people ask me like technical business questions. I'm like, I don't actually know. I'm working on that. And I've learned loads about, all the business jargon, like customer acquisition costs and total addressable markets and all that kind of stuff, which has been really interesting. Yeah.
Well, that comes back to people just throwing jargon around to impress, I think, as well. So sometimes you've got to cut through that, but it sounds like you're already doing that.
Yeah. I think, yes, it's been since May. I think May was the first time I started messaging people and went, right, okay, I'm just going to explore this. But since then, like loads has happened, and it's more my personal development that's developed so much. So I've gone from taking everyone's advice as gospel because they go, oh, well, they work for a VC company or they've got their own business, and you kind of listen to everybody and don't trust your own instincts sometimes. What I've learned is to really trust myself more because I've made a lot of like little mistakes along the way in terms of taking the wrong advice and trusting the wrong people. And someone said you need to increase the founding members, get 500 founding members. And I said, no, because I can't manage 500 founding members. I want this to be a community where I get to know those 100 people well and by name, and they can join the webinars every week or every month. And I can't do that with 500 people. And it's just sort of trusting yourself to trust your vision and what it is you're trying to achieve. And it doesn't have to be the same as what everybody else does. If you think, actually, this might work a bit better, try it. If it doesn't, you can go back and do it the other way. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think it's very admirable, given that you had people from trade coming to you with a clear demand and what they needed. And you could have said, you know what, let's pivot. a lot of startups do that. They have a particular ICP in mind. They think that they're solving that particular problem, or they're focusing in on that particular audience, and then somebody else kind of says, no, we really want what you've got. And then there's a pivot required in terms of the go-to-market, but also the product build. And for you to kind of stick to your guns and say, no, I am trusting my vision, as to your point, we'll get there eventually. Because if the demand's there now, it'll still be there by the time I'm ready. But we've set out to solve this problem and start here. So I think it's very admirable that you are confident in yourself and can continue your plan, and keep going with that. So that's great.
There's a lot of people giving me advice right at the start saying, oh, the quickest way to do this is go straight to your property educators and get them on board. They've got a big reach. And I was like, they do, but I don't like a lot of them. I don't agree with what they do or their ethics, their values are absolutely not aligned with mine. So I would much rather build this slowly and honestly, rather than just try and get as many people on it as possible. I'm always quality over quantity, always, with everything that I do. And there's just no point in trying to I could try and get 2,000 members on it really quickly, but then they leave after a year. So we're starting off with annual memberships, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But the next year they're gone because I couldn't offer them the level of service that I wanted to offer them. The platform wasn't ready for them, and then they leave, and then they're really hard to get back. So I was like, I would rather just build this slowly. And there's gonna be times, I know, like, you never know, it might absolutely take off and loads of people might join, and I'll go, well, there's only me, and I'm right at the start because the MVP is so lean. I'm manually doing each member that joins, I'm like manually going through their compliance documents and checking it on our systems with their systems. And so it's not a quick thing. So if 100 people join overnight, I'm going to be a bit nervous, but I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I've got people lined up who can help. But yes, and data farming as well. Someone said, if you get people on a wait list, you can, and I do have a wait list, but they said you can sell their data and make money from that. And I was like, wow, no. So yeah, no. And so a lot of the people I've spoken.
Sorry, I'm just shocked by that statement that somebody would actually suggest, oh, so you're a great founder of a tech business, so you're gonna, and your business is called Trust Verified, so you're gonna take all those people on a wait list who have put their trust in you, that they're giving you their details to be on your wait list, that you're going to sell their data. That is insane.
I know, and companies do it.
Oh my goodness.
With their tiny little sign box at the bottom, and it's got all the little terms and conditions that you don't read, and yeah, all the time.
Wow.
So I was like, no, let's just do this properly. Let's do this right. I don't want to be in court. I don't want to everything to go downhill quickly, because I've just tried to get there fast. Because if you build it properly and honestly, it will last and it will grow, and the people on it hopefully will stick around and grow with me. And that's, I think, how you build longevity in a business, is just building really solid foundations. A lot of people are trying to build quick and scale quickly and get as much money quickly, but it's just not going to last. It'll phase out. I see it in the property world all the time. People seem to take off really quickly and they get a couple of really good deals and investment, and they're on all these podcasts and events and stuff. I think, but there's no foundation beneath you. It's all going to crumble, and a lot of the time it does. So I'm very much building foundations and trusting myself, and absolutely still taking advice, but taking that advice and applying it to the bits that fit in with my values and how I want to do this.
Excellent. So what would you say has been your biggest challenge in the journey so far?
Just the self-confidence, I think. Because I still have days where I go, oh my God, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. I can't do this. But they're getting fewer and fewer. And I think you can very quickly convince yourself that you're not good enough to do something. Everything else can be figured out. But being able to trust yourself and push yourself, there's so many times now where I go and do things and I'm like nervous about doing them. And previously I've wondered, how do people do it all the time and calm their nerves? And then I realized a lot of people just do it scared, but they do it. And it was Layla Hormozy, I think, was talking on a video about, your brain is kind of wired to protect you, and it's that survival instinct. So if you're going to go do public speaking, you're terrified, it'll kind of stop you doing it. But it's only by doing it that you start to rewire your brain to go, oh, I didn't die. That's fine. We'll do it again. And then you build up that confidence. And so I'm really that's been the scariest part, I think, has been putting myself in front of other people on things like this. I've still not plucked up the courage to do videos on social media yet. I've recorded tons of them, but not posted any yet. So that's my next thing that I'm going to do. And I said I'll do by the end of January, because I think if you set a date for something, it makes it happen, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on.
Go ahead.
I say, but in terms of kind of hard things and making decisions, I think you just got to stay calm and not let everything wind you up, because being wound up and stressed about things, don't get me wrong, I get stressed a lot, but I'm much better at calming myself down and going, okay, if I get really stressed out about this, it's just not going to help, and I might end up making the wrong decision. And being able to wait and go, I'll decide tomorrow when I'm not as tired, and then go from there. Yeah, so just trying to stay calm, and just trust yourself a bit more, I think.
Brilliant. So what do you think is going to happen for the business in the next year? What are your plans for 2026? So I know you're going for your 100 sort of founding members.
Yes. So we actually, I don't know if I can say this, I probably can. I had a message from how I said I don't like to message for investment. I had a message come to me from a family investment office who said, we're interested in Trust Verified, it fits in with our ethos, we'd like to know a bit more. So that's why this morning when I said I'm coming, I haven't forgotten, I've had a crazy morning, was because this was only a couple of days ago, and then a couple of messages went back and forth, and they want to see my pitch deck, and I realized I haven't updated my pitch deck for 3 months. So then went to look at it, and I was like, it's rubbish, it doesn't make any sense now, because things have progressed a lot. So I've still trying to finish that off today and have a call with them hopefully next week. But what that means is that due to me going to these events and talking to more people and posting consistently on LinkedIn, I've managed to kind of gather more and more interest that, yes, I'm still sticking to the 100 founding members plan, but I'm now thinking, right, okay, if I can raise a bit more investment sooner, only because they've come to me, not because I'm trying to rush it, can I then build in the kind of lending partners quicker? Because I've already got a kind of agreed lending partner that will start us off. So yes, I'm hoping to do that a bit quicker. So we haven't actually launched anything yet. The MVP is nearly finished. And what was really interesting about building the MVP was that I'd got to know Adam, who's building it, and we were going through like what it would look like, how it would function, a lot of things that I didn't understand. But then he brought in, he recommended his friend who could help me with marketing. So we had a group call. And then this is how I think it's happened. Adam might disagree, but I ended up pitching Trust Verified to the marketing person, Daniel. And because I'm so passionate about it and everything, and Adam was like, yeah, this actually is a really good idea. I always knew it was a good idea, but then I think I accidentally convinced him more of the idea. And so he's just started building it when I hadn't got any funds yet. So I haven't paid him anything yet, and he's nearly finished building the MVP for me, which is amazing. But I think because we'd kind of built up that trust and that relationship over a few weeks, and he'd understood the idea more. And so I've learned that like the really good people, I knew he was good anyway, are people that will they'll support you right at the start, even before, I've had people that I've tried to pay for services from, like nobody paying up front before we even have a discussion, and I don't like that. And so we're going to launch the MVP, get our 100 founding members, but my goal is to have 5,000 members by the end of the year.
Wow.
Which is a really big goal, and I might end up kind of following my words at the end of the year, but I really believe that kind of doing it the right way, and with the right people on my side, and expanding out to trade and other businesses, other industries, we can get those people. I really want it to become the standard across business in general. You set up a limited company, you join Trust Verified. That's how you are able to kind of market your credibility to anyone. That's my goal.
Love it. Love it. Chloe, thank you so much for being on the show. I would love to have you back next year and hear how your year has gone. Will you come back on the show for us?
Definitely. Yeah, we'll see if I got the 5,000 members.
Well, it's recorded now, so, we can compare, but I'm sure you will. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for having me. And I'd love to speak to you again.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share, or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.